So unless you've been sleeping under a rock, then you've probably heard of IGN, one of the biggest and most mainstream game review sites on the internet, and they've garnered a lot of hate over the years for numerous, let's say, questionable review scores given to various games, and some of the hilarious critiques they've had at times, but they remain indisputably very popular. So today I thought I'd take a look back at the scores they've given to all the major Fallout releases through the years, and see if they've got some terrible takes or if they actually make some great points. As many of you know, I'm a pretty big Fallout fan, and New Vegas is one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm curious to see what they got to say about the franchise. And I'm only going to cover Fallout 3, New Vegas, and Fallout 4 because IGN doesn't have a review of Fallout 1, and they don't have a video review of Fallout 2, and I'm not going to cover Fallout 76 because I don't want to cover that game, honestly. So we're only going to cover those 3 games, and let's go ahead and start with Fallout 3.
First off, let's get one thing straight. This game is not just Oblivion with guns. The RPG elements are quite different. You can't just do repetitive actions like swimming in a corner for hours and expect to level up. The system is much more conventional and based on gaining experience through combat quests and the like. The leveling system is pretty standard and works well. When you gain a level, you can assign points to different abilities. You can also choose perks which add awesome upgrades like the ability to explode dudes with minimal efforts. It's a very flexible system that really personalizes how you play the game.
I think that the Fallout 3 and New Vegas system is by far one of the best perk and skill systems in any game. It allows for really deep character customization and character tuning to create awesome playstyles, very unique playstyles. It's not perfect, but I would say that it was a very revolutionary system at its time, and even today holds up as one of the better RPG skill and perk systems in any game.
In fact, the ability to choose your own playstyle is a huge part of Fallout. For example, say you need something from a guy. You can then do a side quest to earn your reward. You can try to smooth talk him depending on your charisma. You can pick his lock and hack into his computer when he's asleep, or you can just shoot him in his smarmy face and take what you need from his lifeless body.
Choices like this, even if they're minor choices, make Fallout games so addicting. Fallout 3 is probably not the best game to showcase the importance of choices and impact of your choices. You can't kill a lot of the named and important NPCs. You can with Colin Moriarty, but not many of them, which sort of limits the freedom of choice and makes the game feel super curated at times. Like you have an illusion of freedom of choice in a lot of different areas of the game. But still, I think choices like this make the game so addicting.
Be warned, this is not a game for kids. You'll meet some twisted characters, and you yourself can do some pretty messed up things in Fallout 3. While playing as the evil character, I actually found it sometimes morally difficult to be the bad guy. It can get that heavy.
Yeah, it's definitely not a game for kids. I think a lot of us forget that 2008 was a bit of a different time. The gore in this game was next level. Like, we had gore in games before this. We've obviously had Mortal Kombat forever, but first-person shooting combat gore at this level was brand new at the time. Again, sort of revolutionary. Targeting certain limbs and watching them blow off into pieces was insane. And I wish a lot more games took advantage of targeting limbs and stuff like that. I think it'd be really cool. Shooting people in the leg to slow them down, or shooting a gun out of their hands. That's what made Fallout so cool, and I think if other games did that, it would be awesome.
There are also lasting decisions like, say, blowing up a town with a nuke. There are
Blowing up Megaton with a nuke. That's always a fun option. I never really got invested or cared about Megaton, so I always blew it up. And that's probably one of the better choices in Fallout 3, giving you the option to nuke Megaton.
The combat is excellent in Fallout 3. Although it may look like a standard shooter at first glance, don't go in thinking that it's Halo.
The combat is not excellent in Fallout 3. Not at all, actually, because if you don't abuse the shit out of VATS, you're going to have a terrible time. Shooting from the hip or zooming in, your bullets are flying just all over the place. You can't hit anything you're aiming at. So I don't know what he's talking about here. Combat sucks in this game. It wasn't until New Vegas came out that they actually fixed a lot of the accuracy problems with the guns. Like, you actually can hit a target you're shooting at. And that's why the Tale of Two Wastelands mod is so popular and important for Fallout 3, in my opinion, because the Tale of Two Wastelands mod is based off of the New Vegas build of the game, so quality of life stuff from New Vegas is now there for Fallout 3. Makes it way better of an experience. It's almost unplayable without the Tale of Two Wastelands mod, in my opinion. Combat is not good in this game. It wasn't good at the time, it's not good now. So
It may be tempting to just shoot the head for extra damage, but crippling an arm might make someone drop their gun, or taking out their legs will cause them to move slower.
Yeah, I was just talking about this. This is what it's all about, man. This is what it's all about. Targeting limbs in VATS. And you don't even need VATS. You can aim. Well, not in this game, you can't aim. You can't aim for shit in this game, but you could properly aim at certain limbs and do the same thing. It doesn't have to be in VATS, which is really cool too.
Oh, and the weapons are flat out cool. Who doesn't like a mini tactical nuke?
This is what it's all about, man. The sandbox of Fallout 3. This is what sold the game for a lot of people. The story, the characters, stuff like that, not as great, in my opinion. The exploration in the sandbox, like blowing up super mutants with mini nukes. That's what it was all about for this game in particular. This is why I think that Fallout New Vegas is so good, because it has all of this stuff from Fallout 3, the sandbox, the exploration, but also far better story and quest design, dialogue choices, freedom. But still, Fallout 3 at the time, revolutionary, absolutely.
I can't say enough about just how amazing the whole presentation is. There's an insane attention to detail in this world. The 1950s vibe, American patriotism, the constant reminder that survival is on everyone's mind, it's all great. The world has gone wrong, and you'll find yourself completely immersed in this twisted sci-fi universe. Simply exploring the dozens and dozens of structures spread across the wasteland is enough to occupy your full attention for hours. And let me tell you, exploration can be very rewarding in Fallout 3. The sound is also fantastic, and the voice acting is great. In terms of graphics, the bleak and realistic art design really works well, and the game is sharp overall.
Yeah, Fallout 3 in 2008 was never a game people considered to have good graphics, but the art style really does sell the world here. It's a lot of bleak browns and grays. It's an ugly game, but that services the world of Fallout here really well. Like the wasteland looks great in this sort of visual style. There's something comforting about the way this game looks. And I'm not nostalgic for this game. Fallout 4 was actually my first Fallout game, but there's something about the way that Fallout 3 in New Vegas looks that actually, it's just so appealing for some reason.
If you are worried about the story, don't be. It's very well structured and focused with wonderful characters.
Come on, IGN. The story in Fallout 3 is probably its weakest point. It's all about the exploration, again, the sandbox, the side quest content. That's what makes this game stand out. Story is not it, dude.
Fallout 3 is a game that needs to be experienced. It's rare when so many individual elements tie so well together. It's a challenging game that can typically be beaten in around 20 hours, or less if you rush, but it will take well over 100 hours to see everything. However, do take your time with this one. It's one of the best games you'll play this year. For the full written review, head over to IGN.com.
And there it is. So IGN scored it a 9.6 out of 10, which is definitely a bit higher than I thought they'd give it at the time. But this game was pretty revolutionary back in 08, so I guess it kind of makes sense. The freedom of the sandbox is just incredible at the time and even now, honestly. Everyone just wanted to get in there and start launching mini nukes at all the enemies, blowing raiders sky high like this screenshot here. That's why people love this game, the sandbox. And overall, Fallout 3 is a good game, but it's definitely got a lot of problems. The narrative choices, lack of freedom with important NPCs, that kind of kills it for me in a lot of ways. But exploring the capital wasteland is genuinely a lot of fun, so I think that's its strongest point. 9.6 is maybe a little high, especially nowadays when we have a few more games to compare to, but I would say maybe an 8, 7.5, something like that. It's a great game, fantastic game, and 8 is still a really high score in my opinion. It's a fantastic game. But when you compare it to something like Fallout New Vegas, whew, let's switch on over to the Fallout New Vegas review.
IGN picked Fallout 3 as its game of the year back in 2008.
Really? Game of the year, 2008, huh? That makes sense.
2 years later, we have Fallout New Vegas, but it often feels like a giant expansion for Fallout 3 rather than an all-new game.
Sometimes that's not a bad thing, you know? A lot of sequels back in the day felt like these mega expansions for their previous games, and that's one of the biggest reasons we got so many sequels back in the day. They didn't need to overhaul their engine or recreate the entire game from the ground up. They used some of their old assets, you know? Or in the case of New Vegas, it was like all of Fallout 3's assets. But they improved things like the quality of life, focusing on other important aspects of the game, like the gameplay, the story, quest design, stuff like that. And that's why I think New Vegas was able to be such an improvement over Fallout 3 in those areas, because they didn't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of asset creation and the back-end engine stuff. They got to focus on just making sort of like an expansion, which is not a bad thing.
Enter the Legion, a dictatorship led by a man who renamed himself Caesar. These slave drivers are about to make a play to take control of New Vegas.
The motivations of the factions in New Vegas always made perfect sense. That's why they're some of the best factions in any RPG, in my opinion. They make perfect sense for the world that they're in. Their motivations, their characters, their lore, it all adds up so nicely. The structure of this game's factions, unmatched. I don't think anyone's topped the factions of New Vegas.
You're a courier in these troubled times with no defined background. Just a seemingly regular guy or gal, you're tasked with delivering a package to the New Vegas Strip. But let's just say complications arise.
The choice to be a courier in this game was a fantastic one by Obsidian. The vault dweller that's destined to save the wasteland and find either his dad or his son makes the narrative feel a bit narrow, you know? Like you're not a completely clean slate. You have like a backstory, a little bit too much of a backstory. But as a courier, you're a complete nobody. You have no investment in any faction as far as you know, right? Like you don't know your backstory. You're just a dude who delivers packages. That really lets the courier be selfish in the wasteland and kind of learn through completely fresh eyes. You're not looking at it through the lens of a vault dweller. You're looking at it through the lens of a complete nobody. It really allows for the courier to be a completely selfish character, just like us, the player, are very selfish players, obviously. We're doing everything for us, and we get to learn all the factions in the entire wasteland as a selfish nobody, and not someone who has already existed in this world as a sort of important character. Like vault dwellers are kind of important, and I think taking that away was fantastic.
The story unfortunately ends up being a bit predictable. There are 3 possible endings, but what's baffling is that you can't continue your quest after you've beaten the game.
I don't know if the story is predictable. I think one of my favorite things about New Vegas is that it doesn't just have 3 endings. It has 6 major endings and probably 1,000 or more, or maybe a few hundred variations in the endings based on the side content. Like in that final cutscene, you can see thousands probably of variations that happen based on your choices in New Vegas along your journey. And I love that.
Fallout 3 came with the same restriction, and people complained so much about it that it was later patched to allow for further questing. Why would the developers make the same mistake twice? Who knows?
Yeah, not being able to play after the main game definitely sucks. I'm not sure why they did that. Obviously, you can keep playing and just not do the final part of the quest, but it would be cool to see a wasteland that's affected by your final choice of the game. And there are some mods that exist out there that show that, which is really cool. But I wish the vanilla game had those choices. There was probably time constraints that prevented something like that from happening. I'm sure Obsidian probably thought of that, but yeah, I'm sure they ran out of time. Their 18-month window was closing.
Fallout New Vegas uses the same engine as Fallout 3, and comes with the same technical issues. It's disappointing that there are so many bugs in what is essentially more Fallout 3. Load times are long, lip syncing is sketchy, and the game will freeze here and there. That said, it does run better on PC than it does on consoles.
So yeah, this game is definitely one of the buggiest games Bethesda has ever published, and again, it was probably due to time constraints for Obsidian. A lot of those bugs were not fixed prior to release or after the fact, which is unfortunate. I think Bethesda made Obsidian move on and not even bother patching the game. I don't know why she said that it runs better on PC. That's just not true at all. The Xbox 360 port of the game is by far the most stable version of the game. Without mods, vanilla New Vegas on PC is practically unplayable. You need anti-crash mods at the very least to make it run. So I'm not sure what she's talking about there.
The great thing about the open world of New Vegas is just that. It's free to explore. You have a lot of freedom to make your own choices and to be a good guy or a bad guy.
Oh yeah.
It's also up to you to customize your character with perks and abilities when you level up. There are loads of side missions, and you can expect to spend around 100 hours completing them all. In fact, some of the side missions are infinitely more satisfying than the main storyline.
Dude, the side content, just like Fallout 3, is where this game shines. But unlike Fallout 3, New Vegas quests are far and away much better in terms of choices, in terms of outcomes, creativity in the dialogue. It's not even close. Fallout New Vegas side quests are peak RPG quest design, in my opinion.
First-person shooter fans will be happy to learn that you can now use iron sights to look down the barrel of your guns.
Let's take a step back here.
Now use iron sights to look down the barrel.
Yeah, iron sights were a nice addition on some guns, but guns like this, they're pretty hard to use. Where the hell is the enemy? I don't know. No one knows. Can't see shit through this.
The biggest addition to the game is hardcore mode. This option makes surviving so much more difficult that the game actually recommends against enabling.
Hardcore mode is absolutely amazing in this game. It's the perfect and ideal way to play. When you have to manage your food and water and resources like doctor bags and your ammo weight even, it's the best way to experience this game. Absolutely. I recommend everyone play this game with it turned on. Do not take the recommended no option. I don't know why they would recommend no. This game is way better in hardcore mode.
Fallout New Vegas is more Fallout 3, meaning it's still a lot of fun. There is nothing quite like wandering a nuclear wasteland, facing moral dilemmas, and popping headshots. The many technical issues are disappointing, but they can't sink one of the most addictive formulas in modern gaming. This is definitely still a wasteland worth exploring. Just don't expect Fallout 4. For more information...
So 8.5 on consoles and a 9.0 on PC. So for me, Fallout New Vegas is an absolute 10. It's an almost perfect RPG. One of the greatest games ever made by far. But now let's move on to Fallout 4.
It's the Skyrim to Fallout 3's Oblivion, if you will, and it's comparably dense with great locations to explore, genuinely creepy monsters to fight, and superb post-nuclear atmosphere.
Again, exploration is why Fallout 4 is still such a great game. There's a lot of regression in the factions and the quest design, but it's definitely the sandbox that still makes this game fantastic. It's why Starfield doesn't even compare to Fallout 4, because exploration in Bethesda games is usually the best part. And Starfield's exploration is awful, and that's why Fallout 4's exploration clears it by a mile. You can't wander around in Starfield and find things. It's all fast travel, walk in a straight line. That isn't fun, Bethesda. Fallout 4, there's constantly stuff to discover. Fallout 3 and New Vegas are the same. There's constantly new things you're finding while just walking. You can't just find things while walking on empty planets in Starfield. So that's why that game sucks. Anyways, back to Fallout.
Like in Fallout New Vegas, several groups are competing for control of the region, and deciding which of their imperfect post-apocalyptic philosophies to align myself with made me pause to consider how I wanted events to play out.
The factions in this game are terrible and probably one of the biggest weaknesses of Fallout 4. None of the factions are compelling options, in my opinion. Their philosophies make no sense and they contradict themselves constantly. Almost all of the characters are super annoying. None of them are really likable. I would like to just nuke the entire wasteland in this game. I hate all the factions. All of them are wrong. All of them are boring. All of them are extremely uninteresting.
Even the highly questionable Institute has a tempting reason to side with them.
No, they don't, IGN. The Institute is garbage, and Sean is not a compelling reason. I'm sure that's what you're alluding to. Sean is not a compelling reason to join that faction at all.
I was initially disappointed by the overeager beginning. Soon after a
Oh, there he is.
As I live and breathe. Oh, it's really you.
I
like Codsworth, man. He's a fun character.
The huge number of side quests is the real attraction of Fallout 4, and they easily overshadow the...
Most of them are garbage, though. Most of them is Preston Garvey saying, hey, another settlement needs your help. Most of the side quests are bad. You gotta find the few good ones. And there's not too many great ones in this game, honestly. Most of them are those boring Radiant quests.
I can't go on a point A to point B quest through the ruins of Boston without seeing 3 other things I want to do.
You hear that, Bethesda? Modern day Bethesda? That's why Starfield sucks, okay? You can't just walk in a straight line in that game and find awesome shit along the way like you can in this game and your previous games. Figure it out, Bethesda.
Side quests are so addictively rewarding in part because loot has been punched up in a very Diablo-style way.
Let me hear that again.
Side quests are so addictively rewarding in part because loot has been punched up in a very Diablo-style way.
Side quests are not that rewarding at all, actually. That's one of my problems I have with the side quests. A lot of them are very pointless to not only the world, but just they're pointless for you to do them outside of getting XP. And I don't know if I'd say it has a Diablo-style loot system, but whatever.
Because Fallout 4's crafting is crazy in a good way.
I actually really like the weapon crafting in this game. I think it's pretty cool. It's one of the better additions to the game. I like being able to modify all my guns into these like over-the-top Frankenstein abominations, kind of like this gun right here.
And because every item in the world is made up of components, nothing is worthless.
Too bad there's a weight limit that makes it so picking up stuff is incredibly difficult. If you play on PC, use console commands. If you're going to do a lot of this crafting stuff, you got to use console commands to increase your weight limit, because if not, you're just going to be constantly over encumbered.
Fallout 4's gunplay feels like a good quality first-person shooter, to the point where you could comfortably avoid VATS auto-targeting if you wanted to. But I didn't, because these slow-motion dismembering kills are still great rewards for a job well done.
The improved combat was much appreciated for sure. But I think if this game didn't have the combat that it has, people would easily say Fallout 4 is the worst game because of things like the narratives, like the factions, the side quest content. The combat really did save this game in my opinion.
Relative to Fallout 3, Fallout 4's characters are more jack-of-all-trades in their combat abilities. In fact, the entire concepts of skill points and traits have been consumed by the...
Exactly. Jack of all trades, master of none, that's not fun. And that's why this system absolutely sucks compared to Fallout 3 and New Vegas, which maybe you don't agree, but I think have far better skills, perks, stats. This is a much more watered down and frustrating system in my opinion.
However, since my suit was always just a fast travel away, in practice having to run back and grab it when the going got tough became more of an inconvenience than anything.
I don't know about you guys, but I never really got into using power armor. I just have more fun on foot as a regular dude. Maybe that's just me though.
Meanwhile, building up settlements with the finicky build mode definitely adds something to fiddle with beyond quests. But my towns almost never contributed anything meaningful to my adventures beyond somewhere to hang my vast collection of looted hats. There's tons of potential here for crafty people to build some impressive stuff though.
Base building's another thing I never really got into in Fallout 4, but I'm glad it's there for people who enjoy it. It's just not something that interests me. I'm sure a lot of people, and maybe even some of you guys, really like it though, so that's cool.
The world, exploration, crafting, atmosphere, and story of Fallout 4 are all key parts of this hugely successful sandbox role-playing game. Great new reasons to obsessively gather and hoard relics of happier times, strong companions, and sympathetic villains driving tough decisions make it an adventure I'll definitely replay and revisit. Even the technical shakiness that crops up.
So 9.5 out of 10 IGN. It's a little high in my opinion, probably drop it down to a 7. Without the amazing gameplay, I would say this drops down to a 5. I think the narrative, the quests, the dialogue options, the choices, everything in this game related to the RPG aspects are a huge step back from New Vegas and even 3, in my opinion. When I think about playing Fallout 4, I think about the sandbox and blowing stuff up with mini nukes and doing all sorts of fun crafting to make these crazy weapons to go use on the enemies. I never think about the narrative and the quest design and the dialogue. That's not what brings me into Fallout 4, but that's what brings me into Fallout New Vegas. So when I'm thinking about playing Fallout 4, it's about the gameplay. When I'm thinking about playing New Vegas, it's about the choices and the quest design. And for me, that's more appealing because the gameplay can eventually get a bit boring over time. So when you have a compelling world with amazing factions, writing, dialogue, that's what makes an RPG replayable for me. And the gameplay in Fallout 4, despite being pretty decent, is not a compelling reason to go back and play it. On a side note though, Fallout London is one of the greatest mods out right now for Fallout 4, and I highly recommend checking it out. It has a stronger emphasis on quests and story. It's really good actually. I love the Fallout franchise. I'm about to start another modded playthrough for New Vegas, and I'm pretty pumped for that one. Maybe I'll live stream it too, like I live streamed New Vegas the other day. But that's probably going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.